How you doing, folks? Welcome to your Phatic immediate post-match reaction pod, coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet every Friday 9 p.m, every Sunday 9:30 p.m, live on the Gersnet YouTube channel. But I would double check on Frankie, the Gersnet Supremo Frankie. Check his Twitter account, Frankie at Gersnet online, because I think it's back after the summer recess. I think Gersnet is back this Friday. The nascent 2026-2027 season, the rumblings of 2026-2027 season are getting gradually louder. Rangers playing Saint-Etienne tonight, Rangers playing West Ham on Sunday. Derek McInnes, Lawrence Shankland finally getting to turn up. I mean, obviously Derek McInnes has turned up at Ibrox plenty of times when he's playing for us, but finally leading us out as manager tonight. Lawrence Shankland scoring for us tonight at Ibrox. It all feels a bit more real than it has during the World Cup. You're just watching the headlines coming in about who we're signing and who we might be selling. But I think Gersnet will be back as things start to get pretty real. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by Les Poteaux Carrés. Poteaux Carrés. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Excuse my French. Pardon my French. It's completely non-existent. But that's what they call it. Square posts. Square posts. I'm sponsored by. In fact, the Saint-Etienne fans, and I've seen a couple of folk decked out in Saint-Etienne stuff, but not many. But the ones that were here, they'll be thinking, we're actually winding them up. The last time Saint-Etienne were here, of course, it was the old Ibrox 75-76 season. The plans had been drawn up for the complete rebuild, but they came here 75-76 season, and this just suddenly struck me that the kind of the whole Galleria thing that we've got going here at the back of the stands, the walkways we've got at the back of the three new kind of goalpost style stands that we put up between 78 and 1981. I've got these what look like square posts, and that's what bothers Saint-Etienne, or it used to bother them. It's a part of their history now that they're very, very fond of, because when they played their only European final, the 1976 European Cup final, it was at Hampden. And they beat us en route. To use a French term, they beat us en route to that European Cup final. Rangers, as in 1960 when Eintracht Frankfurt beat us, tend not to get to the European Cup final ever, but it's particularly galling when it's going to be played at Hampden, and one of the teams that gets to the final beats us on the way. But at Hampden, in that European Cup final, they hit the woodwork twice, and it was proper woodwork at Hampden. If you remember, if you're my kind of age, you'll remember, I think it was into the 80s anyway, that both Hampden and Ibrox had square posts, had proper square and proper wooden posts. It was actual woodwork at that final, 75-76 European Cup final. Amazingly sexy, amazingly brilliant, amazingly dashing Saint-Etienne side hit the woodwork a couple of times, and the ball bounced back out, and they thought if it was the kind of tubular aluminium metallic woodwork, quote unquote, that they had at the Stade Geoffrey Guichard at their own place, then the ball would have bounced into the net once it had hit the woodwork. But out it came, and it saved Bayern, who they kind of dominated in terms of possession and shots on goal in that game, and Bayern won 1-0 to complete, in fairness, their third straight win in the European Cup. They won 3 European Cups in a row, did Bayern München, wearing an all-white away kit at Hampden in tribute to the Real Madrid side, who had completed the 5 in a row European Cups at Hampden back in 1960. But the only goal of the game was scored by Franz Roth. Franz Roth, the guy who scored the only goal of the game against Rangers in the 1967 Winners' Cup final, which was Bayern's first European trophy, started them in that great run, of which they're still getting the benefit of today. Gerd Müller also scored in that game, but just like Gerd Müller, we had a World Cup final on Sunday there, but Gerd Müller's 1974 World Cup final, he scored the winner, but he scored another goal later on in that game in the second half, in that game against the Dutch in 1974, which, like the goal he scored at Hampden against Saint-Etienne, looked a mile offside, but because they didn't have VAR, it was only when they showed the action replays later on that it turned out he was a mile onside. He just was so fast in anticipating how to beat defences, how to get in behind defences. So he had a goal ruled out, but the Saint-Etienne, it hurt them so much. They had a massive support. Allez Les Verts, very sexy team of the day. It was the last European Cup final I don't remember. Kevin Keegan, got to say my bit. Kevin Keegan, we lost him this week. Great manager, a very, very characteristic manager. Certainly got Newcastle going. I was at Kevin Keegan's second coming at Newcastle in terms of management. 2 spells at management in Newcastle, and I'd it was just a coincidence. I'd been to St James's Park during Euro 96, but I'd never actually seen Newcastle playing at St James's Park, so I just booked a ticket for this game against Bolton Wanderers, a league game against Bolton Wanderers they had. And in between times, they appointed Kevin Keegan for a second time, and the game was 0-0. It wasn't much of a game at all, but the couple of times they got through on goal, the Newcastle fans were going crazy, and they just loved the guy, Kevin Keegan. They absolutely adored him. There was no getting away from that fantastic atmosphere for what I thought was a rank-rotten game, but they adored Kevin Keegan. And I remember the first European Cup final I ever remember was the first European final I remember, club final, was watching Liverpool beating Borussia Mönchengladbach, Borussia Mönchengladbach, who domestically were vying. They were swapping league titles, swapping Bundesliga titles with Bayern, and now this was their chance. Bayern had won 3 European Cups in the trot, and now Borussia Mönchengladbach were in that final, and they were going to show them what it was all about, but they lost to Liverpool, and Kevin Keegan didn't get a goal, but he ran them ragged. Kevin Keegan, who scored, he scored 2 goals against Borussia Mönchengladbach for Liverpool in the 73 UEFA Cup final in the first leg at Anfield. That was Liverpool's first European trophy, and then he scored home and away against Club Brugge in the 76 UEFA Cup final. When they won, it was their second European trophy, Kevin Keegan, and of course they went on Liverpool to beat both those clubs in the European Cup final, but Keegan only took part in the 77 European Cup final for Liverpool, and he destroyed them. He ran them ragged, winning the penalty that basically decided the game, that put Liverpool 3-1 up. Phil Neal scoring the penalty. He ran Bertie Vogts into the ground, and then of course he appeared in the European Cup final again with highest Val with Hamburg. One European Footballer of the Year 2 times, Kevin Keegan. Really unfortunate with England, really unlucky. His England career injury, England not qualifying for World Cups, not down to him at that time, 74 and 78, at the peak of his powers. Goals pay their end, and Keegan does his share. David Coleman 1-0, the 74 FA Cup final. I don't remember watching that. I was just 4 years old when that cup final was played, but I've seen the goal so many times in that classic David Coleman commentary. Kevin Keegan scoring for Liverpool as they won the FA Cup against Newcastle. But it was a Newcastle legend he became. I remember watching, when it gets mentioned in Boys from the Black Stuff, doesn't it? Kevin, big Jimmy Nails. They're all wondering if they're going to stay on in Germany and keep. Well, no, Boys for the Black Stuff. Sorry, Auf Wiedersehen, Pet. Auf Wiedersehen, Pet. I'm getting that was Liverpool was Boys for the Black Stuff. That was Soonest, that guys who had won the European Cup with Liverpool even more times than Kevin Keegan. But Auf Wiedersehen, Pet is at the end of one of the episodes. Maybe it's the very last episode. Are we going to stay on in Germany? Are we going to go back home? And Jimmy Nail's character, what was his name again? But he's looking at the paper and he's going, wait a minute, Newcastle have just signed Kevin Keegan. That's it. I'm going back to Newcastle. It was an absolute phenomenon when Newcastle signed Kevin Keegan as a player. They were in the second division at the time, the old second tier in England. I remember them playing Rotherham at Millmoor, and I'm thinking, why is it so match of the day? Newcastle against Rotherham at Millmoor. And it was completely rammed, and I think Newcastle ran riot, and Kevin Keegan was sensational. He goes to Southampton. He was absolutely sensational there as well. Hell of a player, a charismatic manager as well. A great Newcastle side. It couldn't quite beat Alec Ferguson's Manchester United to the Premier League title in England. But my God, they played some fantastic football along the way. So a sad loss for football, the passing of Kevin Keegan, but one of Kevin Keegan's on the way to that 77 European Cup final. If you to sum up the passion, what Liverpool fans think of themselves, what they think of their contribution was in the good old days before all the tourists took over at Anfield, what the Kop could do in sucking the ball into the back of the net. The game that epitomises that is the quarter-final on their run to their first ever European Cup win, and that was against Saint-Etienne, who had this reputation because they'd got to the final the previous season, and they'd been so sexy, they'd been so glamorous, they'd been such a great team. Dominic Rocheteau and a couple of Ravellis and all that, Bathany, these guys, sensational. And Liverpool were 1-0 down for the first leg. It started Geoffrey Guichard, and then they come to Anfield, and I think they scored early doors, did Saint-Etienne, so Liverpool had to score 3 times, and they were kind of struggling, but on came David Fairclough, super sub, gets the goal that puts them 3-1 up, and that was one of the great nights at Anfield that pushed Liverpool over the edge into becoming the completely huge, world-famous club that they are. And Saint-Etienne just on the wrong end of it. Losing it in Bayern. Look at Bayern Munich, they're still reaping the benefits of what they did to Saint-Etienne in that 76 European Cup final. I'm talking like this because I'm sponsored by the Square Posts. The Square Posts, they rue so much at the Stade Geoffrey Guichard, but over the years it's come to represent their greatest moment as a club, particularly now down in the second tier in Ligue 2, I think they call it in French. But in the square post, when Hampden decided to move into the 21st century in terms of the woodwork at Hampden, the old square posts, Saint-Etienne bought them, and they've got them in their club museum because it's part of their folklore. They've got them in the club museum over there. In Ibrox that same season, we had square wooden posts, but it didn't bother them playing us. They beat us 4-1, I think. They beat us 75-76 European Cup. I think it was the second round. And we beat Bohemians in the first round of the preliminary round. Bohemians of Dublin, we beat them. And then we went through to play Saint-Etienne, and we lost 2-0 in the Geoffrey Guichard, and they beat us 2-1 at Ibrox. Alan McDonald basically got a consolation when we were 4-0 down on aggregate. And what was it? It was one of the Ravelli brothers scored in each leg, and a Dominique scored in each leg as well. Dominique Batanet and Dominique Rosto scoring one in each leg. Fantastic side in that kit. That is that Allez Les Verts, famously a green kit. And it's one of the green kits, one of the few green kits I would actually wear as a Rangers supporter. You know, it's no bigotry. It's just colour-coded bias. You know, you don't want to wear a kit that's more famously associated, a colour that's more famously associated with your main rivals. But of the green kits I would wear, you've got Algeria in 1982. Mexico home kit any season, any year at all. I would definitely wear that. Northern Ireland, obviously, and you get the two Germany away kits, kind of in the 80s, right up to about 1990. One worn by Riedla, one worn by Rummenigge, both at Wembley friendlies, midweek friendlies at the old Wembley. Green, the traditional Germany away kit of the green top. I would wear all of them, and I would wear a Saint-Etienne top. The top they wore in the 76 European Cup final, and they wore it with black shorts, which I grew up for years thinking that was, I'd seen the pictures of it, I thought that was their home kit. And I also thought it was great because it was cuffed and collared with red, white and blue. I didn't realise until years later, and I saw Marseille at Ibrox wearing the red, white and blue collar and cuffs. I didn't realise that that's what they do in France. The winner, the holder of the league title, gets to wear red, white and blue. The French flag, they get to wear red, white and blue collars and cuffs on their kit as long as they're reigning champions. You know, like the Scudetto in Italy, they get to wear the Italian badge on the Italian shield on their jersey for the whole season that they're Italian champions. That's what the French do. I don't know if it's still a thing they do over there, but that's what I thought. It was this great kit that the green, the dazzling green was offset by the fact that it was red, white and blue. I didn't realise that was the second last time they'd ever wear red, white and blue. Saint-Etienne have won 10 Ligue 1 titles. It's a massive anomaly. Like Rangers now they won the second most domestic titles in their country, and like Rangers, it was only a massive a financial anomaly that allowed that to happen. PSG, the investment they've got, finally overtaking Saint-Etienne. Even Lyon, their great rivals from down that part of France, winning 7 straight Ligue 1 titles, couldn't catch up with Saint-Etienne's 10. They won 1 in the 50s, 4 in the 60s, 4 in the 70s, and 1 in the very early 80s, and then that's them. They've won, I think, 1 League Cup since then, Saint-Etienne, but a great club, a mythical club, and it was a real honour to see them tonight in the flesh. Probably the main reason I came to this game, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. No, it was a chance to see Derek McInnes. But my name's Alec Anderson. I'm losing my favourite game. You're losing your mind again. I'm losing my favourite game. Well, Saint-Etienne would have been 2 on the nose, wouldn't it? And I'm dreaming of the day when I can wear cardigans again. This heat is absolutely getting to me. That's why this is already a dragged out all over the place podcast. But my name's Alec Anderson, folks, and I am talking to you from outside Ibrox immediately after Rangers have beaten Saint-Etienne, the great ASSE, Allez Les Verts, by 2-1 in the first Ibrox pre-season friendly of the summer of 2026. Derek McInnes' home debut as Rangers manager, and a home debut for quite a few players tonight. A much changed Rangers side from the last one we saw, losing by 2-1 to a side in green, also without James Tavernier the last time I was here. Massive changes to Rangers. Yeah, and it was, I think we set out in a kind of 4-2-3-1 formation as far as I could tell in that first half. And I think it was almost half and half with guys who were players who were there last season and new arrivals. It's kind of confused by the fact that we had, well, I'll tell you why it was confusing as I go through the team. Ivan Pandur looking purple. I think they would call him the Purple Panther or the Purple Panda. Ivan Pandur looking lovely, resplendent in goals in the purple kit. I cannot believe that Jack Butland, I'm never going to see Jack Butland again playing for Rangers. I'm never going to see Jack Butland playing for Rangers again. Quite a thing that he's away. A massive, almost cultural shift. And then it gets even wilder at right back as Ross McCrory, who's a debutant because it's his second debut and he's played for Rangers before. Ross McCrory, so he comes back tonight and he's in at right back. No James Tavernier. No James Tavernier there. Still takes a bit of getting used to, and it's going to take a bit of getting used to at left back. It was two Romans, he remains from last season, and then it was one of each at centre half where you had Ben Godfrey coming in wearing the captain's armband. So I don't know if Ben Godfrey's been fighting everybody in pre-season. He's best fighter, so he's won the captain's armband on loan from Atalanta, and you get him with the captain's Atalanta. And then it's big Emi Fernandez, he remains from last season, other centre half. I think it was a sitting two of Dan Neil, debutant, and Chukwani remaining from last season, just signed in the winter, of course, like two Romans in the January transfer window, so still feels fairly new. And then I think it was a three-way. Mo Diamande still here. I don't know how much longer that'll be, but he was wearing the number 10 jersey, but he seemed to play in a kind of attacking wide right. I think Shankland, although he's wearing the iconic Rangers number 7 jersey, I think he was playing number 10, which is quite confusing because he was sitting behind big Youssef Chermiti remaining from last season, and on the left-hand side, again, to make it confusing about who's it was Finlay Curtis, who's been away, but he's come back. He's been away on loan, so he's still a Rangers player, and he scored for us already in this pre-season. Just like the last time I saw Finlay Curtis, he was coming on for Scotland as a substitute in that game against Curaçao. It was the last live football match I was at, and he scores in that. Lawrence Shankland scored 2 in that game as well. And the first time I saw Finlay Curtis last season was in a corresponding pre-season friendly against Club Brugge, who also lost their only European Cup final. That was to Liverpool in 1978. The only time they got to the European Cup final, they lost it. And last season I also managed to see Roma, didn't I, who lost their only time in the European Cup / Champions League final. That was against Liverpool in 1984. But I saw them last. I got them off the list of European finalists, iconic European finalists I'd yet to see in the flesh. This works for you. These are the coincidences suit you as well. It's not just all about me. We had Michael Beale, his debut, it was his managerial debut, full stop, for Rangers, but it was his debut at Ibrox, if you like. It was against Bayer Leverkusen, wasn't it, who lost the Champions League final at Hampden in 2002, and it was right in the middle of the tail end of a World Cup. It was right in the middle of the 2022 World Cup quarter-finals in Qatar. Next World Cup, it's just done on Sunday there. We're still feeling the fallout from it, and here you have Derek McInnes making his managerial debut for Rangers at Ibrox against Saint-Etienne, who lost their only European Cup final at Hampden. All the coincidences. I do all the coincidences. Rangers scored a goal, Lawrence Shankland, from the penalty spot. He played in the World Cup. He played the World Cup there. He's right in front of me again. He's played for Scotland in the last live game I saw him in. The last live game I attended, scored 2 in that, and then he comes up, he opens it scoring tonight. I don't know who it was brought down in the box, but it seemed like a penalty from where I was, and up steps Lawrence Shankland to slap it away. He got the biggest roar of all the debutants that were going to announce before the game tonight, while I was up trying to get a pie. They don't put as many staff on, do they, in the pie shops, not when it's friendlies, you forget that. So it actually takes longer to get served than it would if there's 50,000. There's probably about 25,000 here tonight, I would say, which, Glasgow fair time, that's fair enough. If you're not got a head full of European club history like I have, maybe Saint-Etienne being French second tier aren't that big a draw to you. Even if I tell you that they lost the playoff, they lost the promotion relegation playoff from League 2 last season to Nice, and they lost to Nice. It's played home and away, the French promotion relegation thing. To get back up into Ligue 1, they've had a few hard years, Saint-Etienne in the second tier, a bit of a Hamburg, if you like, a bit of a highest val of French football. So they're playing Nice, OGC Nice, who we played in our first ever European game. The first time we ever played in Europe was against OGC Nice. There's nothing to talk about with this friendly, really, except the kind of stats round about it. OGC Nice, and that was the first European opponent we ever played in the 56-57 European Cup. They put us out. There was a playoff in Paris, and then the following season we played Saint-Etienne. So the first two European opponents we played was Nice, and then Saint-Etienne. We beat them. We put Saint-Etienne out of the 57-58 European Cup before going out to Milan, who lost the final to Real Madrid in the Heysel. Before going out to Milan in the next round, but it's one each in European meetings with Saint-Etienne. It's always the big competition that we play them in. But we did beat them first time we played them. But in the playoff last season, it was Nice against Saint-Etienne, and that's the two first teams that we played in Europe, the promotion relegation playoff in France. And more than that, it was 0-0 at the Stade Geoffroy Guichard, and it was 4-1 to Nice in the is it the Riviera Allianz Riviera, they call their new stadium, OGC Nice, where we won 4-1 in Europe season before last. I don't know, I find all this stuff quite coincidental. I'll throw one more in, and I'll try and shut up about the history aspect and get on with the details of tonight's game. When we played Saint-Etienne in the 57-58 European Cup at Ibrox, the first leg at Ibrox, 1-3-1 at Ibrox, and then we lost 2-1 over in Saint-Etienne, and it was David Wilson scored our goal. I don't know if we were 2-0 down at the time, in danger, but David Wilson at least equalised. Does that a lot, David Wilson, in our European history. It makes things safe away from home. And then we had the game at Ibrox. 3 goals were scored by Don Kitchenbrand, Alex Scott, and Billy Simpson. So it's a South African, a Scotsman, and a Northern Irishman. And the goal that was scored for Saint-Etienne at Ibrox, I can't remember the fella's name, but he was Algerian, basically. But he was born at a time when Algeria at this time in the 50s was still a kind of protectorate, a territory. France basically owned it. So he played 4 times for France. This guy, I can't remember his name. And then he played 40 times, I think it is, for the Algerian Liberation Front. They had a national team. It was a kind of protest national team, and they played lots of games against teams against other international nations. I don't know if it's Iron Curtain sides or whatever, who also hated France. A lot of kind of protest games, friendlies, and he played about 40 games for them. And then eventually Algeria gets liberation, while he's still playing football into the 60s, and he plays for Algeria. So he's played for 3 different international teams. The guy that scores the only goal for Saint-Etienne that night, Ibrox, and then you've got guys with 3 different nationalities scoring for Rangers, and this is in the European Cup. The idea that in the 50s, and there was a day you could go back to where I think you knew when you stood, everybody that played for your football team was for your football team's country, you know, and it was only for... No, it was absolutely... always been totally... Not polyglots, or speaking English, of course, the Rangers scorers, but that was... I found that it's countries that played apart from the Algerian Liberation Front, it was international teams, and apart from Northern Ireland, that played at this summer's World Cup. Of course, Spain against Argentina being the first monolingual final. Guys speaking the same language since the first World Cup final in 1930, when it was Uruguay against Argentina. They both spoke Spanish as well, and it just shows you that just because folks speak different languages, that's not necessarily the cause of any ructions. Maybe they speak the same language, and that's when they hate each other. All the more given Argentina's reaction to losing both of those World Cup finals, 1930 and 2026. So that was it. Rangers 1-0 up after 5 minutes. Laurie Shankland puts away. It's a lovely moment. He's making himself comfortable straight away. Laurie Shankland looks like he's played for us forever. And in the 10th minute, big Youssef Chermiti, he hit the bar. That's about the only thing he did. And then in the 15th minute, Ivan Pander had a lovely point-blank save when Saint-Etienne went through on goal and looked certain to score, which pretty much got him it was just a lovely moment. It's like, well, Jack Butler, no offence to him, but yeah, it's nice to have a decent goalkeeper again. It's a long way to go. He had a wee moment right at the end, Ivan Pandor, where he nearly got caught out by a kind of late tackle, not late in the nasty fouling sense, but just he's behind you, trying to clear the ball with his feet, and it nearly got kind of half cut out by one of the Saint-Etienne players creeping up on top of him. But he's going to get sharper, obviously, as he's getting more used to his new surroundings. And that was, it felt as if this is great. Everyone's going absolutely fine. But then Saint-Etienne, as the second half went on, they started getting down our right-hand side, sorry, our left-hand side. They were going down the right, and at one point they lumped the ball. I wasn't too worried at first. They lumped the ball forward straight from goalkeeper, and suddenly their number 7 had the ball, and he was just belting his right in behind us, going through on goal, and he cuts it back, and in comes to Romans, and easily cuts it out. And even before he'd finished cutting it out, Andy Gorham style, he's having a go at his defence while he's still getting rid of the ball. He's just bollocking the rest of his defence. I think he's saying, can I not even go up the park once and there's nobody covering me when I vacate the left back slot? But then, I don't know, what was it, 38 minutes, 34 minutes or something like that, Saint-Etienne, it was a number, I can't remember if it was the same fella, he went through and down our left-hand side, and two Romans hit him quite firmly, tackled him quite firmly, and the fella just carried on as if nothing had happened, pulled it back, and they stroked it in from close range for an equaliser. You get Ian Cathro, 2 ex-Hearts managers in the dugouts tonight, in the technical areas tonight, and Ian Cathro, is he a guru? Is he a gimmick? We're still trying to find out. Saint-Etienne just took him from Estoril this summer. This is one of his. I don't know if it's his first game in charge of them, but he's not managed them in a competitive game so far. Ian Cathro, but it wasn't. I didn't see Craig Levine handing notes to John Daly to take down onto the pitch from the main stand tonight. But we might have to get that for that system going from Derek McInnes, because he today got a 4-match ban or a 5-match ban, with the last match suspended from the dugout. He's going to be in the stand for 4 games when the Scottish season, domestic season, reconvenes. Welcome to Rangers, Derek. That's what you call for calling Celtic disgusting. Was it? Did you call Celtic disgusting? I mean, Celtic fans are always telling me that everybody hates them or everybody loves them when they're winning stuff. Why don't you? You're uptight. But then when they get beat, it's because everybody hates them, and it's bigotry, and we're all against it. So does everybody know call Celtic disgusting? Oh no, it was a decision. It was a refereeing decision. That's fine. It was Article 72 that he contravened anyway. So even before he came to Rangers, this is why he was Hearts manager, Derek McInnes. It's Article 72 that he's breaching, that he's contravening. Staunch, 1872 and 1972. It's just pure staunch. But he's at the 4-game ban for what he said about the penalty that Celtic were awarded in like the 25th minute of injury time at Fir Park last season. I'd be appealing that. I don't know what's happening with that, but it was him and Ian Cathro in the dugouts. And Ian Cathro, management-wise, bad time at Hearts, because he didn't have a playing career. That was a big thing. You can't have a guy who's never played the game. Might tell that to Arrigo Sacchi. And Jose Mourinho had no great playing career either. These guys did all right when it came to the European Cup and international football too. When it came to Sacchi, but Cathro, one of these guys, is he the way ahead, or is it just a kind of gimmick that's never going to work? And he's coached at Valencia. He's been assistant coach at Newcastle as well with Rafa Benitez and stuff like that. A good level, definitely got the knowledge, and I'd be happy to see him do well, but not tonight. So that was it. It was 1 each at half time. Second half, on came the floodlights, and on came Cammy Devlin and just started kicking everybody and trying to start a fight. I saw Lauren Shankland doing it a couple of times as well, just leaving a wee elbow or a wee boot in there to try and keep the Saint-Etienne players in their place in the first half. And this is what we're supposed to want, isn't it? This is what we're wanting from the Derek McInnes era, bringing all these jambos in. So Cammy Devlin comes on for his Ibrox debut as a Rangers player, and immediately just starts picking fights with everybody who's bigger than him, which was everybody, really, just basically everybody on the pitch. He's not a big guy, Cammy Devlin, but he gets about, and he did suddenly make everybody else look as if they'd been very immobile, very very inactive, really, in the first half. He rumbled it up, but it was a while before we got ourselves back. Shankland had a shot from just inside his own half, just inside the Saint-Etienne half, a kind of speculative job after being kind of caught out. They got a bit cocky, Saint-Etienne, and it went wildly. It didn't go wildly over the bar. It came reasonably close. It was a wee moment, and we all kind of cheered that. Well done, Lawrence. And then we had Dan Neil having a shot from just outside the box, which kind of went over the bar. But Saint-Etienne were not really threatening us any more than we were threatening them. There wasn't a lot happening in terms of goal-mouth chances, but they had this thing of being able to get behind us. We were got behind quite a few times, quite easily. Managed to snuff out the danger, but there's a lot of work still to be done. A lot of players not there, of course. Raskin's not back for the World Cup. Thelo Asgard is, though. Thelo Asgard, busy mates with Haaland. He scored against France in the World Cup final, so he came out there and we won the second penalty. And we won the second penalty because Bojan Majowski get brought down. So it's Rangers straight by, as Celtic fans will tell you, penalty to Rangers, that's how it works. We had 2 tonight. That's Derek McInnes. This is how he's going to win the league. Just penalties all the way from referees that he thinks are disgusting to prove that it's patterns of assistance. I don't know what the theme's going to be next season. It depends how. If we're winning, we'll be cheating. The same as we think Celtic are cheating whenever they're winning. So Bojan Majowski come on as a substitute for Lawrence Shankland, and it was quite a moment because I remember for years we've got to sign Shankland. This is the big thing amongst the Rangers support, myself included. I take Lawrence Shankland. I was never that particularly enthusiastic about Shankland. I probably try to be a kind of contrary wank, but I always thought, no, we should go for that Majowski. He's an artist. He's really great. I like the way I like his touches and all that. He seems a bit of a goal scoring guru. Does Bojan Majowski? I would actually go for him. Instead of Shankland, or maybe he's going to be more available. So we eventually got Majowski last season. I was really excited. Didn't work out particularly greatly, but he's had his moments. But then to see Shankland coming on, Majowski coming on, and Shankland going off, maybe I'll never get to see them playing together. Majowski may be sold by the time the season starts. Who knows? But it's quite a thing. And Bojan Majowski, I don't know. I was talking to my neighbour about the fact I'm probably not going to go to the West Ham game and hope it all been doing during the summer holidays, because the game, it wasn't exactly flowing. At this point, I think we'd had Saint-Etienne brought on 6 substitutes at once, and they'd already had a guy get injured and had to go off towards the start of the second half. So that was 7 subs for them. We were starting to bring on the subs quite regularly too. Lyle Cameron coming on and playing for Rangers. It was Finlay Curtis that would get off at half time to bring on Cammy Devlin. And I think Cammy Devlin went and sat beside. He was in the kind of sitting role, although he wasn't doing a lot of sitting in midfield alongside Dan Neil. And I don't know. I don't think we went 4-2-3-1 at that point. It might have been a 4-2-2-2. I think Shankland was effectively playing in a front 2 with Youssef Chermiti at that point, but Chukwani ended up on the right hand side. He definitely wasn't playing right wing or even wide right, but he was kind of in front of the sitting 2 this time, alongside or on the same level as Mo Diamandi. But it would change things about. But then it started, Lyle Cameron comes on. Nice to see him, having been out on loan. He's back on the books. Don't know how that's going to work. Who else come on as a substitute? Othello Asgard, he come on, and I don't know who it was, as I say, that played the ball through to Bojan Majowski, but it looked like a penalty, but he definitely won the penalty. He went, and he was almost hitting the deck before he'd contacted the goalkeeper's arms. It was clever play, let's put it that way. Down goes Bojan Majowski. Thought he was going to take the penalty, but no. Othello Asgard, I've scored in the World Cup. I'm best mates with Haaland. Get out the road. He steps up and he slams it home, and he's celebrating this new pinstripe strip we've got. I was gutted on Sunday, just showing my age. But it's the child within the old man. It doesn't sound right, Alec, but just showing my age in various ways. On Sunday, I'm thinking, why aren't Argentina wearing their black shorts? Why aren't Spain wearing the black socks? And the lighter blue shorts that would have allowed that Spain used to wear with the black socks. It would have allowed Argentina to wear their black shorts that make their home kit just perfect. And tonight I'm thinking, why aren't Saint-Etienne wearing the black shorts that they wore against us, definitely in one of those legs, to contrast with our white shorts in 76, 77, when their players were so sexy. You look at pictures of that 76, 77 Saint-Etienne team, they look like they're out a French movie. They've got these massive chests, big kind of strap. They're kind of half Tour de France, and the clingy jersey definitely has a kind of psychological allusion towards cycling jerseys, and the whole Tour de France thing is what we always think of any French team, because we've got a bike from Saint-Etienne in the Ibrox trophy room, the Saint-Etienne bike, which now gets slagged because it's something we like. It gets slagged by opposition fans. Oh, yeah, you've got in your trophy room as a Saint-Etienne bike. Well, it's a fucking honour to have that in there. It's a club that Michel Platini played for. Might have been a bit of a dick when it came to administrating the game, but fucking one of the best players ever to play the game. Saint-Etienne, fantastic club. What am I talking about? We scored the penalty too. That was it. Lots of substitutions. It's 2-1 to Rangers, and that's it. It's all over. We have won. I think the most important thing about this game tonight is we won it. It wasn't very impressive. It ended dead on 90 minutes, and if you're in that World Cup zone, as I still am, to have no hydration breaks and 0 injury time, and the fact that there was about 25 substitutions in the game, it was quite a shock when it ended on 90 minutes. But it's a good run out without being a particularly impressive performance. I was talking about the strip, wasn't I? Because that's one of the other new aspects tonight. The pinstripe kit. It looks better on the supporters, I think, than it does on the players. We've got the red and black socks, so that keeps it traditional. That keeps it the basic tenet, the basic component of a Rangers kit for me is some sort of blue jersey, white shorts with the red and black socks, and the red and black socks is probably the most important component for me. So that was fine, and I know it's a retro kit, and I love the 82, 83. We've got it 82, 83, 83, 84. We had the white with the away kit was white with blue pinstripes, and the home kit was the blue with the white pinstripes. But now it just looks really dated. It doesn't even look retro. It just looks, to me, it looks a bit silly. It looks like we're trying to wear a suit, like an actual, a banker, a London banker. We're trying to we just got the bowler hat to go with. Davy Wilson, Eintracht Frankfurt bowler hats, 64 Scottish Cup final, stuff like that. Would go perfectly well with it, but. Sorry, folks, I'm rambling. We won this game 2-1. Rangers are back at Ibrox. Derek McInnes has made his managerial debut. We've got all these players making their debut for Rangers. We'll get no Tav, no Buckland, no Goldson, no Morelos, no Ryan Jack. It's quite. This is the second. This is when we're supposed to move it on again. We had the phase of getting out of the lower leagues, which one of the lowest moments for me was kind of reprised tonight. I remember being at Brecon. Being at Glebe Park Brecon to play our first ever match as a lower league club in the Challenge Cup, and the team bus arrived, and if you know what Glebe Park's like, there's a kind of gravel driveway up to the back of the stand that's behind the goals, and everybody's singing "No Surrender, Ian Black," no surrender, because Ian Black had a reputation as being a pure hard case and a bit of bump. And I never thought Ian Black was a hard case. I thought he was a bit of a coward, to be quite honest, and I never liked him playing for Rangers. One of the few Rangers players I've just basically did not like from day one. But it was this thing of, okay, right, we're in the lower leagues, but we've got Ian Black now. At least he'll go out and he'll be nasty and he'll dish that. And that's not what we need. I think we might need Cammy Devlin. I think he's an infinitely better player. But Cammy Devlin got man of the match. He got the sponsors man of the match tonight, which is your Bears in hospitality, totally bevied, and they're giving it. At least he came out and get fucked in about them. It started causing rammies in the second half, and it did wind up Saint-Etienne with a wee moment, a wee exchange. Saint-Etienne players started going in, trying to break the ankles of Rangers players for a wee spell, and you'd Derek McInnes turn around to Cathro going, what was we doing? What are you up to? And Cathro saying, well, you fucking started it. So I don't know. It's all about what's going to happen with Derek McInnes as Rangers manager, or Rangers head coach. It's quite weird how it's happened and how I feel about it. There's this thing, Derek McInnes has never won the league as a manager, but he got closer than a lot of people would have given him the right to as Aberdeen manager. It's like 10 years ago when we were still in the Championship. He got temporarily close to winning it to panic Andy Walker. We remember that on Sky with Aberdeen beating Celtic at one of Delia's Celtic at Poteaux in a midweek game that was taking them to a second place. It was a lot closer than Celtic would have liked at that point in time. And then, of course, he came as close as any manager has ever come to winning the league title without doing it. Last season, minutes away from winning the league title at Parkhead, but you might as well be decades away from winning the league title, and it's Celtic that are going for it alongside you if you're anybody other than Rangers. So there's this thing now where we need Derek McInnes, and Derek McInnes needs us. Both ourselves and Derek McInnes need a league title. We're getting sick of waiting for it. We don't really care how we get it now. So we've got Derek McInnes, and he's going to Rangers as opposed to staying with Hearts, who'd put so much faith in him. And it's probably the best thing all around, because the way Hearts lost that league last season, they will need some sort of rebuild psychologically as much as anything else. If it's Derek McInnes again spending the whole season going, we're nearly there, guys, we're nearly there, that's just the faith and the belief isn't going to be there. And of course they took an absolute tanking last night in the Champions League qualifiers, but let's not slag Hearts for that when we've got Jagiellonia Bialystok coming up, Conference League heavy hitters, or a big name. They've done well in the Conference League the past few seasons. Jagiellonia Bialystok, and we don't know. It's almost like it seems to be a lot of Rangers fans have agreed we're going to chuck Europe in order to win the title again, as if that's something you have to do, as if that's a straight swap. We need to make sure we get ourselves into the group stage, at least to keep the finances going. We need the European football, and you access it via domestic success. We've been watching a World Cup. It just felt there was a kind of there was a kind of comfort around Derek McInnes. He knows the Scottish game inside out. It's everything that we worry about with the managers we've had, Philip Clement, Danny Rule, etc. But I'd resigned myself, or not even resigned. I could see that was a good thing. We want consistency. That's the main thing at Rangers. We've got familiarity. We've got the same people plugging away at it, the same as we did under Steven Gerrard, who got us that title, and then that all kind of faded. So we need to go into this third phase now. Tav's been the bridge, basically, and we get into this third phase where we're back to winning regular league titles, retaining league titles, winning domestic trophies alongside them. Derek McInnes feels like he can do the domestic thing, but it's still to be proven whether he can or not. I was quite happy with Danny Rowe just staying on, but then when he's replaced by Derek McInnes, it's like, okay, that feels right as well. Maybe slightly righter at this moment in time, but we do need that. Even me, somebody who loves the European stuff, we do absolutely need to get ourselves back to winning the Scottish title, to get a sense of ourselves again. It's getting frustrating. It's not even embarrassing. It's just what happened last season was so sickening that we need to be doing this again. Basically, nobody else is going to stop them. We need to get that done, and then we can concentrate on sailing off into the sunset and onto the continent again. So it was a fairly impressive performance tonight. We got the job done in the end. It's about getting minutes in the legs, about these players getting to know each other. We've got Nico Raskin, for example, hasn't come back for the World Cup. He probably won't. Nico Raskin, I won't miss him as long as we get big money for him. I think Big Chermiti looked like he didn't want to be here either tonight, but I might just be imagining that. He's waiting for a move as well. So the squad's still got to settle down. But the thing we learned when Steven Gerrard did win 55 in a season that started in France against French opposition, a pre-season, the Valois trophy, beating Nice and Lyon. Was it something like Lyon? Was it Nice, the other team that we beat over there to win that wee trophy? And our record in friendlies that season, our record in friendlies under Steven Gerrard was fantastic, full stop. We didn't lose a lot of friendlies until we lost to Tranmere. This was after we'd won the league, and that was a kind of sign, I think, that things were going to start going wrong for Steven Gerrard. He was on his way out eventually, but the season we won 55, our record in friendlies was tremendous. 2007-2008, when we were, a couple of games away, a couple of goals away from winning a quadruple under Walter. We started off by beating Chelsea in that amazing, Mourinho's Chelsea, in that amazing pre-season friendly. So it is a big thing for a new manager, especially. It's a big thing to land momentum, and every game at Rangers absolutely counts, and nobody knows that like Derek McInnes. So we will see how it goes. Sorry, okay. These guys, you don't let me talk about the game. You're always, that's fine. The only reason we've tuned into this podcast is to find out how many European finalists you've got off the list now. Okay, that was number 82 tonight. Number 82, and we had a few, of the 109. Now 109 teams have played in one of the, four it is now, historically, European club finals. And I've seen 82 of them in the flesh. So the ones I was sitting down in Pickering, which is the border of the North York Moors, little town down in Yorkshire there. I was sitting in Pickering a couple of weeks ago, and I just finished watching France beating Morocco. And France were wearing in the quarter-final of the World Cup, and they were wearing their away kit, which at first looks all white, it's kind of off-white, and you see it close up, it's kind of minty green. It's a kind of minty, a greenish white. And then I just checked my phone. New email from Rangers. We're playing Saint-Etienne in a friendly, and I yelped out loud. The most excited I've been through that entire World Cup. Oh, yeah, beauty. We're playing Saint-Etienne. Yeah, I love the World Cup. I totally absorbed myself in it. I owe you a podcast. I did a 2.25 hour podcast reviewing the World Cup. The two games at the weekend and the entire World Cup, because I did a preview pod, didn't I? So you owed that. And I did it last night, and with the heat and my exhaustion at staying up to watch a lot of these games, and just I knew I'd made a couple of wee errors, a couple of wee snagging items. And as I watched it, somebody got in touch. I think it was David Shaw. Thanks, David. He got in touch just after I managed to timestamp the whole thing, which takes about another 2 hours, to say, Alec, it was Hungary that beat El Salvador 10-1 in the 1982 World Cup. It wasn't Yugoslavia beating El Salvador 11-1, and I was actually quite chuffed that I hadn't said it was on Honduras. It was how to get something wrong in as many different ways as possible. But as I went back in to kind of check what I'd said, I realised I'd made about 15 other mistakes, and it was just, I'm an idiot. I do make factual errors all the time, but this was just exhaustion, the heat, and just try to get every single thing that I thought about that World Cup into one podcast. It was just, it was getting away from me. So I took that down, folks, because you deserve better than that, and I want to control in what way I make an arse of myself. I don't like it when it's completely unintentional. So I mean, I've seen like Mikel Merino had a goal every second game, roughly a goal every second game for Spain. And of course, it's Mikel Oyarzabal that's got a goal every second game for Spain. I've been stuck in this World Cup, totally absorbed in it. Not wanting to go back to the grimy club football, which seems so tacky. Don't believe these podcasts that are telling you, I'm glad the World Cup's over. You know, I'm glad to get back to the real football. I thought you were totally enjoying the World Cup. Yeah, but now that I'm trying to get hits from Rangers supporters, now that I'm trying to appeal to what I condescendingly think is the lowest common denominator, now that I've, my fucking middle class wanker who's been to journalism college and has been told how to get it, just never slag Rangers, always give the nut jobs what they want, slag the World Cup and all that. If you truly love your football club, if you truly love your team, you have times that you need to get away from them. And we had a little moment at Ibrox last season against Celtic in the Scottish Cup, and it was great, which proved exactly why you need a wee break. You need to get away from the club football. You need something more glamorous, more exotic, more polyglot perhaps, in the World Cup is that. But even while I'm watching France against Morocco, Mbappe, I get a wee text in for Rangers, a wee email, and it's saying, we're playing Saint-Etienne. I was like, dirty buggers, Rangers. You just know how to drive. This is what I thought it was out. They pull me back in, and it's the first game we're playing at Ibrox in the pre-season. Saint-Etienne is European finalist 82, and it now means that there's only two clubs who played. I've seen every team that's won the European Cup or Champions League, and I've seen every team that has been runners-up only, has only lost. I saw three of them, Bruges in Roma last season, and Saint-Etienne again tonight. But the only two I've got left to see are Stade de Reims, who, Just Fontaine, who's one of only other three guys that have scored double figures as a golden boot at the World Cup. He played for France, same as Mbappe, and he played for Stade de Reims, and they lost the first European Cup final in '56 in Paris, and the fourth one in 1959, and Just Fontaine played for them in that one. And the guys going past there have totally confused me. I've tied myself up in knots with my stats as well. I know Stade de Reims, and the other one, the only other European Cup or Champions League finalist I now haven't seen in the flesh is Eintracht Frankfurt. And that's all sorts of embarrassing. That is all sorts of embarrassing. Some folk don't give a shit about how many European finalists they've seen or whatever. Some folk just need to be where Rangers are. Pre-season friendlies are playing European finals, and I wasn't there, and that is one of the greatest shames of my life. So this season, I don't know what Eintracht. I look out for Eintracht Frankfurt now. I look out for Reims as well to see if they're in Europe, what competitions they might be getting into. For the chance Rangers will play them. But this is with Freiburg, Crystal Palace, Rayo Vallecano last season, all brand new European finalists, all playing their first ever European final. Luckily, I'd seen Crystal Palace a couple of times before, so I scored them off as soon as they arrived on the list. But Rayo Vallecano, I'm like, when am I ever going to get to see Rayo Vallecano in the flesh? They don't even like having tourists at their home ground. I've been over to Madrid to watch Atletico and that, but they don't like having the tourists. I've probably got my head kicked in. Hearts played them in a fucking friendly at the weekend, which I totally missed because I was still concentrating on the World Cup. I could have been through at Tynecastle. I think it was only about 14,000 there. I could have been through there to watch them. Rayo, I can't get them off the list, but 82 out of 109. I need Rangers to get themselves into that European group stage so that even though the World Cup is over, there's still a bit of exoticism to get us away from the thing that ended up having a situation where Celtic supporters running onto the pitch at the end of just having won a penalty shootout after extra time, 2 hours of football, in which they didn't have a shot on goal, and they've put us out the Scottish Cup, and they've spent the whole game singing about the Ibrox disaster and vandalising their standing, and they're overcrowding while slagging the people, disrespecting the people who died in a crushing disaster in this stadium. they are causing a crush in the very same stadium at the end where the previous Ibrox disaster happened. And then there's just out of order, and then they come on the pitch right at the end of that to goad us. These Celtic fans weren't pulling onto the pitch and just giving it, oh laddie damn on the pitch, let's hug each other. It was get it Rooney's, you hun bastards. But us, our fans coming on to respond to that, apparently we shouldn't be acting. That's no provocation, the Celtic fans coming on the pitch at a moment like that. But our mascot going up to the Celtic fans before that game and pretending to bare his arse to them, bare his arse to them, that apparently is provocation worthy of citation. Yeah, this is why I don't want to get into this is why I don't want to get back into the club season domestic. I feel my mind getting narrower by the second. It's going to be, and if Rangers are going to win the league, hopefully, I'm glad Martin O'Neill stayed, because I want us to run him out of town, and hopefully it's going to be by January and we just run away with this league. But if we don't do that, the one thing, the first game I was at Ibrox, pre-season 2026-2027, the best song sung all night was No Surrender, Broxy Bear. Thanks, folks.